Shut up and sit down.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fight for Liberty show. Today, we have an extremely special guest. I'm super excited to talk to him. We've got Scott Horton coming on the show. And, there's honestly just too many topics that he is an expert in for me to possibly touch on all of them. But we're going to try to get a good amount of his story and learn a whole bunch of stuff from him. So, Scott, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Right. So I really like to start out with just kind of getting an idea of your libertarian testimony. Like, who is the person that first introduced you to the word, and how did you become one of us crazy people that goes around spreading liberty?
The word, I think I probably first saw on a bumper sticker on the back of a beat old Oldsmobile. It might have been a Buick or something. Said "Enough is enough. Vote Libertarian." I think was the first time I ever heard or saw the word. But there was a small Libertarian access channel community here in Austin. Terry Liberty Parker, the late great Terry Parker, and let's see, a guy named Gary Johnson. I'm pretty sure that's his name, but it's not the same guy. Something Johnson. Sorry, man, if I'm getting your name wrong. It's been a long time. I know the guy's still around. I saw him at a Travis County Libertarian Party meeting last year. So he's still around, this guy. He was actually really great. This is like when I was still in high school, so this would have been like 94, 95. And,
wow.
And I remember he had a rap where he looks at this camera and he goes, "The Republicans, they're just terrible." And he does this entire thing about how horrible they are and all the stupid things they believe and all the horrible things they do. And he turns to the other camera and he goes, "The Democrats." And he says the exact same things, all about them. And he's right on the whole time, about, completely has them. And
that's great.
On like the corporatism and the wars and the regulations and the every taxes and everything,
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been some of the first. And then, of course, there's Harry Brown and Ron Paul. And then in the new century, then, antiwar.com and LouRockwell.com and Mises.org and all of that stuff, especially antiwar.com. And that was kind of where I fit right in.
Gotcha. Yeah, that I've heard quite a few people that have found liberty from that part of the movement for sure. But so you haven't been very involved in the LP itself for a little while, right? You kind of have taken, or were you part of the Mises, the more Mises group that's newer to being an active member of the party on a national level?
Yeah, I would be the newer wave of that. I mean, my role in the LP essentially has been that I was Michael Badnarik's foreign policy advisor in 2004. And then I was an unofficial advisor to Gary Johnson and to Joe Jorgensen, just kind of trying to give them advice and talk with them. But that's kind of really been my only role. I haven't, done a lot of work, on the organizational level and all of that. But, a big part of, as I said, a big part of how I found libertarianism in the first place was because of Harry Brown back in 96 and in 2000. And I think he really sets just like Ron Paul, he sets a really great example of, not that I follow it, but just that I admire it, that works on me, of essentially being very classy gentlemen who also know exactly what the hell they're talking about. They're mad as hell about it, and they know what the right answer is. And they are, Brown and Paul both are radicals. They're both hardcore libertarians. And they also are brilliant geniuses who know everything about economics and history and current events and politics and foreign policy and every kind of thing. So like in all the times I used to interview Ron Paul all the time when he was in Congress, especially. And, well, what do you think, Dr. Paul, about the thing going on in Korea? And he knew all about it, and that's how Harry Brown was too. And so he made a huge impression on me back then, when I was young, getting out of high school and going to community college era, kind of me. And then same for a hell of a lot of other people too. I know he did because I was there. And so that's what the Libertarian Party on the presidential politics level, that's what we're supposed to be doing, is having, the really kind of the baddest ass libertarian that we can get to get up there and represent the movement and the party to the broader general public who, I like the way you phrase it. When did you first hear the word? Well, it was during a presidential election campaign season, probably was the first time I heard anyone, really talking about it and what it really means, and what it doesn't and the rest. And so that's, when most Americans, is the only time they ever do pay attention to politics at all, is during a presidential election year. And so then if that's the case, we want to run a Harry Brown or Ron Paul type figure every time if we can. And we've had some decent candidates. I'm not here to knock anyone or anything like that, but I'd like to see, I'd like to see that kind of thing happen again, where the presidential candidate is someone that really can be admired and that we know can make a really great impression on the broader general public.
Yeah, I definitely think that we have too much of a dichotomy in people's minds between like passionate and like put together. We have to either be Vermin Supreme or we have to be Lincoln Chafee, and there isn't and people forget that Ron Paul existed, that we can have, a pragmatic elected official that, knows what he's talking about and checks all of the more moderate boxes like Ron Paul, but is also, a firebrand.
My point. Yeah. So here goes my giant rant in agreement with you. And you phrased it exactly perfectly, that just because somebody said it's a dichotomy doesn't mean it really is one, or we have to respect that or go along with that.
Right.
But, so here's what you got to do, though, right? First, we concede to those who disagree as much as we can how right they are, and which is a lot. Okay. So on the face of it, here's the argument for saying that moderation and pragmatism are the same thing, right? And on the very surface of it, someone said this to me on Twitter recently, that look, if libertarians aren't like most Americans, then you're not going to appeal to most Americans. If you're off on this crazy kind of thing, what I want is somebody who reminds me of some guy in my neighborhood, or I don't know, something. Typically that's interpreted to mean we ought to seem like kind of warmed over Republicans. We're just like Republicans, only we're different on some things, but it's on you to try to figure out what, because basically look at us. We're, a lot. Don't worry. We're not any crazier than Republicans on anything. And then, but the problem with that is, of course, there's already a Republican in the race, and he's already got at least a 49% shot at it or so if people won't split the vote against him. And so people are just going to vote Republicans if that's what they're offered. Right. But it makes sense, though, on the face of it, that, so then what are you going to do? Elect some crazy who's going to do a striptease on C-SPAN or run around with a boot on his head and just try to, make us all look like a fool, or not even that, but without naming names. Like, you could have really bad ideas like I'm going to prove how libertarian I am by always focusing on repealing Medicare first. The sick, poor, elderly. Yeah, those are the worst. Those are the real, instruments of tyranny in America that must be. See how radical I am and how uncompromising I am. But then just making us all look, first of all, like jackasses, but also like jerks, right? We see how you libertarians are. I'm going to kick the sick, elderly, poor off of welfare first before we get to the bankers or the oil companies or big pharma or whoever. Go down your laundry list of powerful cronies of government, right? Well, that's stupid. And if you're a moderate, then you look at that and say radicalism is dumb. Radicalism is unprofessional. Radicalism makes us look stupid, right? Yep. But then, so the answer to that is, yeah, you're totally right. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Harry Brown and Ron Paul. to absolutely hardcore radical libertarians, uncompromising libertarians, brilliant geniuses who know everything about gold money and history and war and peace and economics and politics and everything in the world that's important and how to explain it right, and yet are not personally jackasses, right? They are decent men. You know, Harry Brown was an investment banker. Ron Paul is a baby doctor, you know, and married to his first wife still in his 80s, right? This is our guy. And so, but ask him about, well, how much government do we need, Ron? And you're never going to get a very statist answer from him. Even when he's running for president, he's like, yeah, you know, I don't know. I don't
legalize
think we really
heroin
need very much at all. And this is what we need is a pragmatic radicalism, not moderation, hardcore radicalism, but smart shit, not a bunch of idiocy. And so on the radical side, since we're on that side, we owe it to the pragmatists to say to them, listen, you guys got a lot of great points and we agree with all your great points. It's just, here's the part where we think that a good radical, somebody like you or I might know, could be the most pragmatic answer that you're looking for. That's what it is. It's not to say we shouldn't be pragmatic. It's to say radicalism is pragmatic if you do it right.
Right. And I think I love how you just said that. That was so perfect. Because I'm actually, even though I'm super friendly with the Mises and the radical caucuses and the Libs, I'm friendly with most caucuses. The only caucus I'm actually a member of is I'm a state coordinator for the Pragmatists, and I completely agree with you. And the only reason that I joined that caucus was because I think a lot of people in the caucus agree with what you just said as well, and we're trying to shake the prag means moderate branding like as hard as we can because it's not accurate. I think even as iffy of a campaign as we ended up running, I think Jo Jorgensen was kind of another example of what you're talking about here, where she was definitely an uncompromising libertarian. You can't attack her the same way that we attack Gary Johnson.
I agree with that. Totally right. I think that's right. Now she wasn't the strongest candidate with the message or whatever, but she was a Ron Paul person. You know, a big supporter of his in 08 and 12, and that's her idea of what a good libertarian is. And so you know,
I mean, she stole half of her campaign from Harry Brown anyway. So
yeah, I think, of course, she was his vice presidential candidate. Yeah. And I think, you know, she was not a master of all the subject matter in the way that Harry Brown and Ron Paul were, but she was their kind of libertarian. I agree. And I think that she is, in a sense, is an example, like you're saying, of what we're talking about here, where she's the kind of radical that a pragmatist can agree with and like. And it's not because she's a moderate, it's because she's a decent moderate human while she carries these very radical politics. And that's the combination really that we're looking for, is someone who, you know, average people who don't know who we are will be willing to listen to and learn from. Yeah. And yeah, I think we can do that. You know?
It's interesting the way that you described Ron Paul with how you were interviewing him, because almost word for word what Reed said about you. He was like, he's the easiest person to interview. He's just point and shoot. You can ask him one question like, hey, what happened with the bombing of Soleimani? And he could just tell you every fucking thing you need to know about the bombing of Soleimani.
Yeah.
So,
well,
now you're filling those shoes.
That's all I ever talk about. But, you know, if you ask me, you know, what do you think about Libertarian Party politics? I have a lot to say about just about everything, honestly, man.
Yeah, I mean, well, it helps to have people out there that actually know what the hell they're talking about.
With my friends, all we talk about is skateboarding, you know, but
really?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I do have a lot of white in my beard, I admit that, but 44 is the new 34.
There we go. Yeah, I've definitely come into that issue lately because all of my friends are friends from politics. Even like the girl that I'm talking to right now, I met through politics. And so it's like everything is politics
Mm-hmm.
24/7, 365. And like I'll be talking to her especially, and 2-3 hours into the phone call, we're still talking about something politics related, and I haven't asked her at all like, how was your day? What did you where did you go today? What did you do just like normal people stuff that you're supposed to
Yeah.
talk about. I just
There's a
never
lot going
talk with
on, man.
anyone else. Right,
Who
there's
can
too
keep
much
up with
going
this
on.
news cycle,
I can't. I have like effectively stopped trying to keep up with the news cycle.
Just
Between
read antiwar.com every day and you'll be set.
There you go. I read that at least once a week or so. I'll go on. Yeah, I really just don't read as much news as I used to. And I watch a lot more stuff like on YouTube. I'll have like just YouTube playing in the background while I'm working. So I'll be listening to like Part of the Problem or something like that, and or Michael Malice, or try to get some of that news in there. But then I'll go on Twitter or something, or talk to even my parents, who I feel like are more unplugged from what's going on than I am. But I'll talk to them at night, and they'll be like, "Oh, did you hear about so and so died, or this thing happened?" And nope, had no idea.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, ignorance is bliss some of the time. It can
it really is.
come back and bite you in the ass, though, too.
So I'll on that topic, I'll ask you a question that's been kind of bouncing around my Twitter the last couple of weeks. If you were given the opportunity to take a blue pill and just go back to a normal life, not understanding how fucked up society was and how fucked up the government was, and just go live a normal life, would you do it?
Nah, I've always been this way, even since I was a little kid. In fact, you know how you meet up with an old friend on Facebook that you hadn't talked to in forever or whatever? So this is 10 years ago now or something. I quit Facebook in like 2014, I think. But 10 years ago or so, I caught up with an old friend, and he's like, "Oh, so you're the guy from antiwar.com now, huh?" Yeah. He goes, that doesn't surprise me, because I remember in third grade, you used to talk such shit about Ronald Reagan all the time. Like, you're always so political, And I thought, wow, third grade, huh? Like, not fifth? And he's like, oh, yeah, no, I remember definitely third grade. Like, you're totally into it. Nuclear disarmament talks and whatever, whatever it was. So, yeah, no, and I wasn't a hippie either. I just, but I wasn't a Republican. I know that. But yeah, so no, I've always been like this, man. I always would be. And part of it is from being a skateboarder. The first time I ever met a cop when I was 11, I was like, okay, you just made a lifelong enemy of the state out of me.
Mhm.
Sorry. That's just how it goes. This is all a vendetta. This is all just payback. And, fuck them, dude. I hate them. And I want everyone else to hate them too. And so, no, I'm glad I am who I am.
That's fair. I definitely entertain the idea every once in a while of like sometimes I wish that I could not know how fucked up the world is, and not know that I like have this calling to change it and to fix it. And I could just go work a 40-hour work week, and go on hikes on the weekends, and
I'll tell you what, I've
care
had
a
a lot
lot
of
about
regular
what
jobs. I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of regular jobs in my life. And that was always my plan, was just to have regular jobs. And I didn't start really doing this professionally type thing at all until I was like 30. I did pirate radio all through my 20s, but for free with my friends, I wasn't trying to make a job out of this.
Mm-hmm.
But at all the regular jobs I ever had, I knew I was wasting my time and spinning my wheels, and I should be working hard doing stuff like this. I just wasn't sure how to turn it into the rent until, I finally started working for antiwar.com, and making enough to actually do this for a job at all is, pretty difficult to do. But no, I always regretted my time doing regular jobs, because even though, like, on one hand, yeah, I like it. Driving a cab is great, but it's literally driving around in circles, so it's figuratively so too,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely that's been a kind of mental battle for me over the last couple of weeks, because I'm not Like this show isn't where it's making rent yet, so there's that. But I came home for the holidays, and I'm still here. So and the Biden bucks are helpful, as stupid as they are. But they're there, so I'm gonna at least spend them to promote liberty.
It's
So
nothing but a tax rebate to me. Boy, you look at how much they take. This is my money. This is no stimulus. I'm getting some of my money back only is all this is. They owe me. Fuck them. I hate them.
Yeah.
Oh, is it okay to say that on here?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Fuck them.
Yeah, see, I don't have quite as hard of feelings because I haven't paid taxes in I paid the most amount of income taxes I ever paid my first year in the workforce at 18. I made the most money my first year. And then I always work like 6 months a year. I'm always like I work and then I like quit my job to go volunteer and go do something, and then I realize I need money and repeat cycle. So I never break the threshold of income, even if I'm making what would be like a 60 grand a year salary. I only stay there for 4 months and still only make 15 grand on the year, and so still don't have to pay taxes.
Do us all a favor though and just hate them on behalf of everybody else.
I still very much hate them.
Tyrants. Oh, the IRS are as bad as the ATF or the FBI or the CIA or the worst pigs in our society.
Yeah.
They're monsters. And anyone with any family members who works at the IRS at all, you should just do nothing but ridicule them until they stop. You should just be merciless. Your cousin Jimmy or whatever who works down there, you should just bully the shit out of him until he stops that. It's absolutely unforgivable.
Amen. I found it really interesting when I first met Lincoln Chafee. I met him at a New Hampshire Libertarian event, and this was before he was running, but after he joined the party in that like couple month window there. And somebody asked him what his least favorite part of the LP platform was, and his response was abolish the IRS. Which right on the inside I'm like, how did you just say that to New Hampshire? Like, especially New Hampshire. Like, if he had come to the New York State Convention and said that, the reaction would have been significantly different. But he said it to New Hampshire, a state that has very little taxes and is working on
that to a group of libertarians anywhere is like blasphemy. It's like denouncing the Virgin Mary or something to a Catholic. What are you talking about? And Lincoln Chafee is a decent guy, man, and he voted against Iraq War II and stuff. And so, God bless him, but I think he didn't even know. I tried to explain this to him, actually, that being a liberal Republican and being a libertarian is not the same thing. On the spectrum, you're a moderate, you're a rhino. No offense, but that's what they call you. But libertarianism is a totally different thing. The moderates are essentially for every horrible thing. We're against every horrible thing. On the total other end, in a way, not in terms of left and right, but in terms of up and down, freedom and slavery. And the thing is, though, is a liberal Republican like Chafee, well, actually, he's good on war and he's good on gay marriage and he's, soft on drug wars, at least. And so he is libertarian-ish. He's in a good liberal Republican kind of way. He could confuse himself with a libertarian because he got quite a few things right. You know what I mean? But then the least favorite part of the platform is get rid of income taxation. Now we come down to it. This is like saying you don't think a woman has a right to own a gun and carry it down the street with her, right? Like, I'm sorry, we like you, but you're not one of us, dude. You're some other thing, and so you can go and be with them.
Yeah, I definitely respected his. First of all, I respected his balls for saying that.
Sure.
To actually be honest and give the real answer made me respect the shit out of him way more, because I wasn't really getting that vibe. I didn't like him that much. He seemed shifty. He like kept kind of like moving back and forth, and he just seemed too politicky, and I really didn't want to believe most of what he said in his speech. So that answer really like won some points for me, because I was like, okay, this guy's actually has some balls and has some honesty. And his explanation of his answer even made me give him a little bit more credit, because his justification for it was kind of, and as much as I disagree with what he said, he was saying basically that abolishing the IRS is too is a little too like utopian to be on the platform, and that the platform should be something more along the lines of like reducing taxation, and should be a little bit more pragmatic of an approach, I guess, was more his argument, which again, I don't agree with it. I still want to like abolish the IRS completely.
Well, it's bad politics too. I mean, that's the whole thing. Any Republican or any Democrat could say that, the Democrats often run on cutting taxes for the middle class and maybe increasing the bracket up at the top and this kind of thing. So there's nothing distinctly libertarian about that.
Yeah.
And I guess, look, if you're a libertarian and you're in some kind of close contest for governor in some small state, and if you say something too damn good, it's going to blow up everything. I guess I can imagine a context like that being possible at some point or something. We're talking about running a candidate for president of the United States against quite literally $1 billion campaign on either side, plus for the Republicans and the Democrats to win.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do there is, sure, because this is another false dichotomy. Are we trying to win, or are we trying to educate people? Well, we're trying to educate people so that they'll vote for us so that we can win, right? I mean, that's the thing. This is not a dichotomy, and they're not going to learn anything if we're just pragmatic, warmed over, moderate Republican types. What they're going to learn from is if we're, Harry Brownian and Ron Paulian radicals who actually bring something to the table for them to really learn from there. So when you're running for president, Harry Brown would say there shouldn't be any taxes at all. And they would go, well, what are you, some kind of an anarchist? And he'd go, well, look, you want the government to pay for it yourself, or something, you know what I mean? But he would not say, yes, the government should tax people so that to make sure to be able to fund itself, because you just wouldn't be able to catch him dead saying such a thing. But at the same time, he was not saying, I'm running for president because I'm going to overthrow the government and dissolve it or whatever in a way that was just going to make people not understand. But he was uncompromising. Yes, you heard me right. Abolish taxes. Replace them with what? Nothing. Well, how's the government going to pay for all the things that it's got to do?
It doesn't.
That's the point, man. We don't want the government to do a damn thing except leave us all alone. The same thing, the Washington Post said to Ron Paul, come on, but the military, we need a standing army to fight for this country. And Ron Paul goes, we could defend this country with a couple of good submarines. Because he refuses to bow to them. Why should he accept their premise? And isn't that correct? That we need one sub worth of Polaris hydrogen bomb missiles on either coast to dissuade any power on Earth from attacking us ever. And then that's it. We actually don't need a standing army at all. We could defend this country with a couple of good submarines. And yeah, he said it and he meant it. And it was a radical and principled thing to say. And it was a cheeky way to say it to make the point. But yeah, also it really was right. And if you wanted to fight about it, he would say, well, yeah. Why are we pulling our Star Destroyers into orbit off of the coast of these other countries in order to enforce blockades against them and wage these bombing campaigns? We're not supposed to be doing that. If you don't rule the world, then you don't need 11 carrier battle groups on station at all times. This is crazy. And so that's it, and anyways, that's the deal. That's the case for the educating them with taking the severe stance. Yes, absolutely abolish the income tax. In fact, the way I like to put it, and it would probably be better if I would stay calmer while I say the same thing, is that it's absolutely crazy to have income taxation. It's completely insane. If they invented it right now, we would all be screaming our heads off. Wait a minute. So to earn money is a crime. and you will be fined based on an ever increasing fine for the more successful that you are.
Yep.
And this is how we're going to do taxes in a society that claims that what we're trying to do here is have free market capitalism. But the more that you earn, the more trouble you're in. And no Fifth Amendment applies here. You must confess to every nickel and dime that comes in and out of your hands in order to prove how much you made so that you can voluntarily comply, or else they will force you to comply.
Yeah.
In order to write them these checks to turn over all of this money. Well, at the same time, they turn around and monetize debt and print money and play all these bookkeeping trick games all day and prove that they don't even need to tax us at all. They tax us only to enforce a totalitarian system of control, of at least of a totalitarian system of surveillance of all transactions of all business in the society, and wage earners too, salary earners and hourly wage earners too have to keep track of everything they buy and sell. Where you're crazy to use cash, you might as well use a debit card for everything, because at least then that way you can track it and prove what you did or didn't do. Try to find a way to get out or something. And they set it up as a totalitarian system of control. And then it's supposed to be bananas to think that we should get rid of that, instead of it's bananas that that's the way our system works at all.
Amen.
That we punish the earning of income in ever increasing amounts of severity, the better you do for yourself and your people.
Yeah.
It's completely insane. If it was, and this is something I really liked about what Hornberger always has said, is that, oh yeah, no, what if the communists or the terrorists took over our country? Just think, they might create and inflict an IRS and an FBI and a CIA and an ATF to all come and harass our people and eat out our substance. Except that's what we already have. In fact, if you just parachuted in a few commies to seize DC, we already have a system of totalitarian control in America for them to rule. Otherwise, what's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Right? We got a constitutional government. Let them seize DC. We got 50 separate governors and 50 separate state police forces and 50 separate state guard units and 50 separate semi-sovereign states in a union. Let them seize DC. In fact, let them have it. We want them to take DC and go, but that wouldn't even translate into control over the rest of us.
Right.
We've already let DC foist this alien regime of essentially authoritarian control over us in the first place.
Yeah, I will never understand the income tax system. I actually, my last day job before I got into politics was in finance, and I was studying to be a tax preparer so that I could do my clients' taxes and make extra money. And I really wanted to just be like an all-purpose like finance consulting firm, where I was specializing really just in loans and like payment processing. That was all I did. But it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. The idea that you have to pay someone to do the math to figure out how much you owe, then you have to pay them that much so that they can give you some of it back. And if you fuck up, you're screwed. It just will never make sense to me. Never. Like the idea that they already fucking know how much money you make. Like, why do I need to get a W-2? This is a great fucking lesson for anybody watching. If you're worried about getting all of your W-2s, the IRS gets them too. You can go to the IRS office and get a copy of all of your W-2s from last year. So you don't need to wait for them in the mail if you are waiting on them to do your taxes.
Right.
That's the thing. They already have the fucking information. Why can't they do it? Like, if you have my W-2s, why do I need to go take them from you? And then,
most American wage earners, when I get my income tax, is how you hear it, enunciated basically, is income tax is not what you pay. Income tax is every spring when you get your rebate. And then people act like that's a bonus, that you get your annual welfare check from the federal government of all this free money. When that's your money that they've been taking out of your check all year and giving some of it to the Israelis and some of it to Lockheed and some of it to Citigroup. And then at the end of the year, they say, oh, whoops, we actually took too much from you, even by our own laws, of how much you owed us. So here's some of it back without interest.
Yep.
And then
we're going to make up random
plurality of the population says, oh, goody. Once a year, I get a check from the government and I can go furniture shopping or whatever it is, you know, and act like this is our benefit. Income tax isn't what you pay. Income tax is what you get, they think. It's just a travesty.
I was talking on, I was on Magnus Panvidia's show last night, United Voluntary Podcast, that's what it's called. And we were talking about, why do we still fucking pay it? It's as much as you're right, it's like enforced and it is theft, but it is somewhat voluntary. You know, you fill out a little thing when you start your job that says, yes, this is how much money I want you to take out. You could put zeros down and just stop. We could all just, as a society, stop.
And then they'll assess your fine, and if you don't pay it, they'll put you in prison.
Yeah, but they can't arrest all of us.
Yeah, they can.
I mean, they can. It would be,
don't get me wrong,
difficult.
Listen, the year that everyone all just refuses to file, I also will, you know. And look, I tried to get away with it for a very long time, but then eventually they showed up at my dad's house pounding on the door, you know. So now I'm making trouble for others. That's the way they get here, you know, same as anything.
Yep. Got to involve the family to make you feel bad about your life choices. It's like step one. Or at least,
hey, look, you got to stop making yourself or your problems other people's problems. So
yeah,
that's the way they got me. It's extortion, but it is. I always thought taxation is extortion was a better slogan, but maybe it's just too many syllables. Taxation is theft, just a little more catchy.
Yeah, it would make Dan Berman's name like just way too long.
Taxation is extortion. Inflation is theft. I think makes a better point there.
That is. We'll have to clip that. And we'll change the whole. That's the rebranding that the Libertarian Party needed. That was our only issue. We just needed to switch those words around a little bit, and now
I got another new meme. I invented a meme. It's Larry David at dinner bellowing, "This is America. They can do whatever they want." It's from the Palestinian chicken episode. They're like, they can't put in the Palestinian chicken place right next to the Jewish deli. And he goes, "This is America. They can do whatever they want." And then so far, I've only used it in the context of the cops can kill whoever they want, you know, but I think it's got multi-purposes that it could be applied to.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big Larry David fan.
It's interesting. I've had the cop conversation a lot more lately than I'm used to, because I've been surrounding myself with either like hardcore leftist communist like revolutionaries or libertarians almost exclusively for the last year and a half. So the idea of actually having to argue the point that like cops kill unarmed people and that guns have nothing to do with it is so weird. Like, I haven't had to have these conversations in a while. I'm kind of rusty, honestly.
Well, they kill armed people all the time too, but a lot of times without cause. And this is America, the land of the gun. Someone might instruct these cops that, look, lots of people have guns. It doesn't mean that they're trying to kill you with it.
Right.
You know? But instead they're instructed that, hey, look, if somebody has a hand, they're going to pull a gun on you with that hand. You better be careful. They're trying to kill you. And so then they believe that, which is
doesn't
hilarious.
Mean if that hand is on the ground because they're on their hands and knees crawling towards you.
Yeah. And, you know, what pisses me off about that is this is supposed to be an excuse. Well, you know, the cops are trained this way. Well, whatever. You know what? They lived in this same society for something like 20 years, at least, before they joined the police academy. You're telling me that they didn't notice whether everybody's trying to murder cops all the time or not before they showed up at the police academy and were told this pile of crap by some idiot? Hey, guess what? Everyone is trying to kill cops all the time. That's why how many cops have been killed by people in Austin ever? None ever. Except when dumbass got himself hit by a truck or something accidentally, you know? I saw one of these jackasses he's speed trapping from the like 3 foot wide shoulder of the left lane of the freeway with his motorcycle. And he gets somebody, goes to get on his motorcycle. Right in front of me, this happens. Goes to get on his motorcycle and drops it in the middle of the left lane of the freeway. And then almost gets himself run over. Like I had to go around him into the middle lane. And he almost got himself run over and killed trying to get his bike up and get back out of the way again. When what the hell is he doing? He's speed trapping from the left lane. Yeah, this is the war on cops, is these idiots getting themselves run over. Meanwhile, who's ever murdered a cop in Austin ever? Nobody ever. Only in their fevered imaginations. Oh, but I'm supposed to think that just because some trainer told them, like they're dogs with no minds of their own. Well, gee, my trainer told me every Austinite
that's
is
pretty
trying to
accurate.
murder me. So I guess that's what I believe now, huh? Well, that's unforgivable. You know, that's unforgivable because it's a damned lie. And of course they know it. Right.
Yeah.
None of them are stupid enough to be that impressed with their training. That's their excuse. Ooh, I was trained. Everyone's trying to murder me all the time. That way, if you make a furtive movement, I'm going to claim I was afraid. And that was why I had to kill you. Your Honor, furtive. You're free to go.
Yep.
And then there you go.
Yep. Yeah, I've always been, or not always, but as my entire time in politics, I've been a fuck the police kind of a person. My first interaction with a police officer on the other side of the law was at 17, and that went god awful and horrible, and it was just downhill from there. I struggle with the idea, you know, because I'm a unifying person, and I don't like generalizations, and I don't like, characterizing an entire group one way because of the behavior of specific members. But I think when you take an oath and sign a thing and get paid every day to back up the bad people in your group intentionally and vocally and every time, and your excuses are just that it is systematic and that you can't help yourself from being a terrible person, I think it becomes a lot easier to make generalizations about groups. So I think there's like, we can say all cops are bastards and all politicians are war criminals. Those are two generalizations that I think we can make without question.
Look, they use this as the excuse. Oh, this is a couple of bad apples. But what's the old saying? That a couple of bad apples are not a big deal? That's not how it goes.
Right.
It's a couple of bad apples spoils the whole bunch. That's how it goes, right? So
I've always loved their use of that saying. Like like people really don't understand that it's not a metaphorical saying. Like in the saying, they actually get spoiled. Like it's not about, oh, we think they're all spoiled. No, like you don't understand the fucking sayings that you're using.
Yeah. And then look at it. I mean, so we're supposed to accept that some members of our local sheriff's department are psychopathic killers, but many of them are not, David. And then that's supposed to be okay then. But no, that's not okay. You know, there was one the other day. I don't know. Everyone should sign up for the Free Thought Project afternoon email. It'll just kick your ass every single day. And that this cop was torturing and raping young children for years. And then the police chief at the press conference says, well, he's not a cop anymore. And nobody said, hey, chief, shouldn't you have to shoot yourself in the heart in front of us all right here? That this guy was your guy? This was your cop. He was raping and torturing children for years on your watch, while you were foisting him on us as our security force. You're responsible. You have to shoot yourself now. You have to throw yourself in front of a train now. This is your fault. Damn you. And instead he gets to go, well, you know, I mean, I fired the guy. And it reminds me of a thing back years ago. I was reminded of this recently, and now I'm reminded of it. Back years ago, when I first got on the internet and stuff, back 20 years ago, right at the time of the dawn of the terror wars and all this, and I started doing the interview show and all that, and I joined up all these libertarian email lists, and there was a guy who was on a bunch of these libertarian email lists, like Yahoo news groups and all that. I don't even know if they still do that or not. They might. I don't know. Anyway, and the guy's name was Smacko. And Smacko got all mad at me, and he was pissing me off too. He's being all patronizing and trying to get me, say the word, dude. What is the problem? Why don't you get to the point? Why don't you nail down the thing? I'm like, what is it? What is he trying to get me to say? He's pissing me off. And then finally, I'm like, what? Just go ahead and say, I'm too stupid to figure it out, I guess. Go ahead, Smacko. What is it, the word you're trying to lead me to, And then, of course, he said something that was really smart. And I'm kind of glad he made such a point about it, because I still remember the way he had set it up this way to be the point, the bottom line of all of this, libertarian or conservative or liberal or any other thing. Accountability. There's no accountability.
Yep.
And people in government and people rich enough to bribe government and be cronies with government, they can do whatever they want, and there's nothing we can do about it. That's what it is. That's the problem. Impunity. So even this multiple serial child rapist cop is going to get away with some light sentence, probation, or maybe a year in, the local county lockup and not have to go to real prison or whatever it is. And we already know it. We already know it. It's a miracle he even got arrested at all. And we know that the idea, think about what a crank I sound like, saying that the actual sheriff or the police chief of the city, whichever it was, that he's responsible too, that he has to resign. He and all of his top lieutenants, of course they have to resign. Of course he should pull out a sword and commit Harry-Carry in front of us all. That's insane. That's insane 100%. To think that there would be accountability. This is America. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, I was having this exact conversation about the police yesterday, because we were talking about the Libertarian Party platform and what some of its more radical ideals were, and I couldn't remember what the actual police stance was, because it's been a minute since I've actually read through the platform. But I was saying, so it might say something like privatize the police, and so we went off on that rabbit trail for about an hour. I was discussing with my friend who's debating whether or not they want to join the Libertarian Party. We were discussing the idea of privatizing the police. And the first problem that she brought up with that idea was that there wouldn't be any accountability. And I'm like, hold up. So you're trying to tell me, and she kept throwing out Bezos and Gates, that they would make some monopoly on police. And I was like, so you're trying to tell me that in the current system right now, you believe that your police force has more accountability than Amazon? That you are less forced into
and then what's the
using
problem with
them.
The private police forces that Bezos might do what? Create a monopoly. In other words, become a state.
Right.
Which is the problem. We agree. Then
still
the problem
not possible.
Is monopolies.
Yeah.
On police power.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So create a market in police power.
Right. And the idea of monopolizing every police force in the US and maintaining that monopoly without government enforcement is ludicrous. Amazon can't even put fucking UPS out of business, and they're a goddamn awful company.
Well,
and
look,
they're still around.
The Supreme Court just refused to hear a case about qualified immunity that protects cops from being sued in almost all cases. And they refused to even hear it. And right when this is at the height of controversy, they won't even take up the case. And then I got to recommend this article to you. I've read it 2 or 3 times, and it's really worth a very careful look. It's called Tamir Rice's Basically Reasonable Murder. And it's, you remember Tamir Rice was the 12-year-old boy that the cops pulled up, and the cop sitting in the front seat just jumped out of the car and just blew this kid away without a moment's notice. And because he had a toy gun. And a guy called 911 on the kid and even told the 911 operator, I mean, I think it's probably a toy. Well, what the hell did you call 911 for in the first place? You think it's Andy Griffith and Don Knotts are going to show up? No, the Gestapo showed up and murdered the kid, killed him to death.
Yeah.
And anyway, the 911 dispatcher was too negligent to pass on that, oh, actually, it might be a gun. So we're just double, triple checking to make sure. But the caller himself says he thinks it's just a toy. Oh, I meant to say toy there. I said gun, a toy. The caller himself says he thinks it's a toy. So everybody take it down a notch. No. And then the cop pulls right up and the cop jumps out and goes, drop it, pow, 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 and kills him. All right. So then they brought in a FBI agent and like a state police official or something like that to do their independent review and investigation. And of course, they determined that it was perfectly fine for the cop to kill the kid.
Yep.
And the reason why, I won't get this perfect, but it basically goes like this. The courts just made all this shit up. This is not the laws passed by the Congress or any state legislature. This is just the courts invented this doctrine. It basically says that it's not a crime for a government agent to kill you. A government agent can kill you. Like the penal code that says that you can't shoot me unless I am presenting an immediate threat to your innocent life, or, an aggressive threat to your life or another innocent person that you're protecting, and that you have no other choice in that absolute last instant but to use deadly force. None of that applies to the government at all, to government employees at all. The only thing that forbids a cop from killing you is the word reasonable in the Fourth Amendment. They cannot seize your life, liberty, or property unless it's reasonable. And so that's seizing your life is killing you. But then, so what's reasonable? Well, it turns out what's reasonable, again, according to the courts, is whatever the cops say it is. And if you're on the jury, you're not even allowed to say what you think is reasonable or not. That's not the question, because the courts decided that no, your job as a juror is to listen to the expert testimony of another cop, say that only another cop can know what another cop was thinking because of their experience and training. And so only they know when they should be afraid and have at the very last, and that's it. It only has to be reasonable. It doesn't have to be last resort. And this is why the jury can't be trusted, because the jury might hold the same kind of standard that you had to shoot. You had no choice but to shoot. That's what's reasonable to a civilian. We don't want you thinking that. That's not it. So we're not going to let you choose that. You will not, the jury will not be allowed to decide that. You will only be able to decide whether you just heard the cops. I mean, this is assuming it goes to trial at all. The cops defense expert witness say that he also is a cop, and he says he would have been afraid in that moment. And that's all you need is fear. And if the cop feels the slightest bit of fear, then he has the right to execute anyone he wants. And there's no one who can be the judge of that except his own self or other cops to agree with him that they also would have been afraid in the same circumstance and all that. And then it goes for case after case after case like this until essentially it's absolutely impossible for a cop to be held criminally accountable for killing somebody. And in fact, there was one recently where it was a white kid climbed a fence. It was I don't know if it was wrought iron, but basically like a wrought iron fence where the things are like this far away. But there's like the top bar. He was able to get his foot up there and jump over, but so it's not like a wood fence where, the cop has a clean shot right through it is my point. And the kid goes over the fence and he's running away and he's just reaching down to pull up his sagging pants because he's wearing his pants in the sagging style. And he's running at full speed, reaches back to pull up his pants. And the cop goes, pow, 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 and shoots him dead. And his buddy runs up right next to him and goes, hey, nice shot. And that's it. He killed the kid dead. And it's perfectly fine because it's reasonable, because the kid reached toward his waistband, and some other cops and some other courts decided already that if anyone reaches toward their waistband, then that is essentially tantamount to them pointing the barrel of a gun directly at your eye. And so you can go ahead and kill them, even though everybody knows that in poorer and black culture, people wear low and sagging pants, and when they run, they gotta pull them up. It's the same thing that happened to Daniel Shaver, I think was his name, crawling on the floor of the motel when the cop executed him with his AR-15, and he's drunk and he's crying, please don't kill me, please don't kill me. They could have just stopped and cuffed him right then. He's laying on the ground, and they make him army crawl toward them, but of course then his pants are sagging. So he's kind of drunk, and he's afraid and not thinking. And so now they have the right to be afraid of anything and murder anyone in the name of their fear, but he has no right to be afraid of them pointing rifles at his head and screaming all of these contradictory orders. And all he does is reach back to pull up his pants. He's laying prone on his stomach on the ground on the carpet of the hotel. You can watch the video. And he just reaches back to pull up his pants, and the cop shoots him. I can shoot. I can shoot. Not I have to shoot. Ooh, look, waistband. Waistband, aha, my loophole. When I get to murder someone is when they reach for their waistband. Hilarious. Look, Your Honor, furtive, waistband, pow, 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 and light up an innocent, unarmed man crawling, begging, crying on the ground. And of course, that cop got away with it. He wasn't charged. Nope. He's a free man living off his pension right now, off the money they take out of your check.
Yeah, you're paying for that shit.
For your executioner, your security force.
Yep. But we couldn't have Jeff Bezos own it and have it privatized. That might be too bad. That might be too
And you know what? Look, let's go part of the way towards anarchism here, right? Like, okay, if you and I have our way, we get to abolish the 50 states and replace them with 330 million plots of private property, and that's it, and everybody's happy, right? Okay, but what if we kept the 50 states, but we just rolled back all policing to violent felonies in progress, and everything else was handled in a civil manner? Because, like, if we're talking about free market private security companies, you're talking about absolute minimal amounts of force for liability reasons, and then everything else is settled in civil court or by private arbitration. And we just do this, I've convinced a few communists toward libertarianism this way, that like, look, ultimately Marx said he wants the state to wither away and for us to have a stateless anarchist type society of cooperation. Well, look, maybe a totalitarian dictatorship of the proletariat on the way towards statelessness is the long way around. And maybe if we want to wither the state away, maybe we just wither it away. Maybe we just refuse to be the demand for their supply anymore. And maybe, you know what? Private security companies are already legal. Maybe we just, more of us own our own guns and subscribe to our own private security services. And then even when problems arise, we just don't call 911 because we don't want them. We don't need them. We do consider them illegitimate power. Rabid dogs all, bent out of shape on steroids and ready to commit murder at a moment's notice is how most of them are. And so let's show that we have no confidence in them by refusing to patronize their services at all, refusing to consider them anything like a legitimate security force. And I got to admit, I'm a hypocrite because one time I walked in on an armed robbery and I didn't have a gun. And so what was I going to do? So I called 911, and I think it was the right guy that they got for it. But then again, I mean, that was because they'd already established their monopoly. That's all, that's the only game in town, essentially. Well, let's focus on creating more games in town to compete with them.
The worst interaction that I had with the police, that really like the most like driving libertarian like interaction, was I had been traveling and working a lot and forgotten about a ticket. So I found out that it had become or that it would be a bench warrant if I missed court that day, right? But there was like it was like this was my last chance basically to go to court. Because in my town we only do court like twice a week. And so I went there and I show up and I'm not on the docket because I was supposed to go like last week. And so they had already issued a bench warrant. So he tells me to go to the clerk and get put on the docket and then come back. So I do that and they tell me I have to go downstairs, and I actually get put in a fucking holding cell for almost 2.5 hours downstairs in the police station before they bring me back up to the court and arraign me for something. Like it was literally like a fucking headlight ticket, or actually it was I think it was a driving uninsured ticket. That one was, but I had fixed it. Like the problem was solved. I had the money to pay the fine. Like everything was kosher. I was supposed to just go in, pay the fine, show them that everything was kosher and leave. But I sat in a fucking holding cell for 2.5 hours, and then actually it got like put in the paper and the fucking whatever the thing is online that shows all the arrests. Like they arrested me, like they found me on a warrant at this address, which is the fucking police station, and like it's a fucking check mark for them on their day because I walked into court voluntarily.
Of course.
I was
Look,
okay.
they don't care about themselves. Why would they care about you?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the public relations. You know, they're your enemy. It's as simple as that, man.
Yeah, and the worst part
get away with as much as they can get away with.
Yeah. Yeah, and the really like awful piece of the puzzle to that day was that my like mentor growing up, or at least like through like junior high and high school, was there. He happened to like walk by and see me in the holding cell. Yeah. And like talk to me for a minute, but couldn't do anything about it. Like so even the quote unquote good cops, like this guy is one of the best people I know, still just fucking let me sit there in a fucking holding cell for 2.5 hours because that's the system. Like there's nothing you can do about it. If you think you're a good cop, you're not. Like it's not a thing that exists.
Hey, listen, the worst guy I know became a Travis County sheriff. He lasted 10 months. So I can't stand this. You know, people who are just suspects, aren't convicted of anything, are all treated like they're serial killers or political prisoners or whatever. It's just, he couldn't deal. And he's the kind of guy who doesn't give a damn either. So for him to give a damn means it was really that bad. It must have been really something else. And Travis County, I mean, growing up, they had the reputation of being the least worst cops around here.
Mm-hmm.
So take that for what it's worth. But anyway, I'm sorry. I got to run, dude. I'm way over time here.
Oh, my bad. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
It's me, man. My Fridays are packed every week.
I feel that. Well, before you go, if you want to just pitch what you're working on, tell people how they can find you and get involved.
Sure. Okay. So I'm the director of the Libertarian Institute. That's libertarianinstitute.org. And that's the great Sheldon Richman and Pete Quinones, Kyle Anzalone, and Keith Knight, and a bunch of other great libertarians there, libertarianinstitute.org. And then I am the editorial director of antiwar.com. That's really the most important project on the internet. And that's Dave DeCamp and Jason Ditz and Eric Garris and all the best group of writers. We got Doug Bandow and Tug Carpenter and Danny Scherson and on with our great writers there. And then I wrote 2 books. You can see them on my shoulder here. A Fool's Errand, Time to End the War in Afghanistan, and Enough Already, Time to End the War on Terrorism there. And then there's my Ron Paul book too. The great Ron Paul's transcripts of all my interviews with Ron Paul, 30 of them, and then a speech I gave him about how great the guy is in there too. And then I've done almost 5,500 interviews. I'm at like 5,478 or 82 or something like that interviews. That's all at scotthorton.org, going back to 2003 there, and at youtube.com/Scott Horton Show. Oh, and speaking of which, at youtube.com/Scott Horton Show. I have a 14-part video series that's basically the video adaptation of the new book. So it's all the Middle Eastern wars from Jimmy Carter all the way through right now. And that's just if you click on playlists there at youtube.com/Scott Horton Show. And then, and I'm on the radio on KPFK 90.7 FM in LA on Sunday mornings.
Wow, you are a busy fucking dude.
Yeah, Fritzo.
Man, I got some catching up to do. You're only interview like 51 or 52. So,
all right. Well, I got a head start on you.
All right, Scott. Well, thank you so much for your time. I
Happy
definitely look forward to doing this again.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Dave. Thanks.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. All right. And we're out.
Hey fighters, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos. If you want to learn more or get involved, go to fightforliberty.com/join or reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at Fight for Liberty. If you want to help keep the show going, Patreon and Cash App are the way to do that. We'll catch you back here next time. Until then, keep up the fight.